Let's talk about groceries. Food is a top 3 spending category, meaning that we spend a considerable amount of money every month on food. Groceries are tricky though, because you cannot just not buy groceries. It's not like with jewelry or sports equipment where we can take a 6 months buying pause. We need to eat, right? But that at the same time makes it easier for us to justify to spend on food. But the thing is, when you are either on a low income or your net worth is still low, and by low I mean anything less than $100,000, it's worth to pay attention to your grocery bill. Like Benjamin Franklin said, beware of little expenses, a small leak will sink a great ship. Alright, now first let me put that back where it belongs. Alright, so just to get it out of the way, obviously the best way to save money on food is to not eat out. So not go to restaurants, not order and take out. Because this is pretty much always more expensive than preparing your own food. So this video is really only about groceries. So the food you buy in a grocery store. Okay, let's start with what we buy. Now, to be honest with you, I have been on quite a diet health journey this year. I watched an online course that completely changed my paradigm about food. And that is why the first distinction I want to make is between nutritional food and junk food. Okay, so I personally, since I watched that course, that changed what I eat pretty drastically. I do not eat dairy products anymore, like ever, which means no milk, no yogurt, no butter, no cheese. I do not eat grains, so no bread, no pasta, no pizza, no oats, not even quinoa. I barely eat any processed food, and although this is a hard one, I also do not eat sugar. But not gonna lie, this is the hardest for me to contain. And right now I try to consume sugar maybe about once a month. So what that leaves me with, what I actually eat is lots and lots of vegetables, fruit, meat, eggs, fish, and nuts. So in other words, I mainly eat one ingredient foods. And guys, I'm telling you, since I eat like this, I have more energy, I need less sleep, I lost weight, and I feel much, much healthier. Now, just in case you're interested, the course I took is called Wild Fit, but this video is not about my particular healthy diet journey. It's about how we can save money by what we buy in the grocery store. But what I did notice is that when I go to the grocery store now, the things that I can buy is on like 10% of the whole area of the grocery store, like every grocery store, which is kind of crazy. And it definitely made me realize how big the food industry really is. But anyway, the reason I wanted to make this distinction between nutritional food and junk food is that it may be the case that you spend a considerable amount of money on junk food that doesn't do your body any good. And if you want to save money, the best thing is to start there. Well, now that I think back, it wasn't like I was buying huge amounts of junk food before. I was just buying like different food. And for me personally, I checked my numbers and I couldn't find like a significant difference. So it's not like I'm suddenly spending 50% less than before I changed my diet. But I think the reason for that is that I switched what I was eating before for all the vegetables and fruit and stuff. And now, just like before, I have some months where I spend more and I have some months where I spend less. So this can definitely fluctuate around, 10 to 20%, maybe even 30. I do suspect though that it's rather more in those months where I do consume more sugar, like for example chocolate or snatching something at the vegan bakery. But if you felt kind of caught when I mentioned that, not buying junk food can save you a lot of money, I think this can really make a big difference. And another factor could be that if you really concentrate on nutritional food, like fresh, one ingredient foods, like vegetables and fruit, then you're living healthier, and that ultimately can lower your health costs in the future, right? So this is something to consider in this context as well. All right, that much to the nutritional versus junk food distinction. And another one could be premium brand versus low budget brand. For example, if in your grocery store you have the choice between organic and non-organic foods, then usually the non-organic are less expensive. Now, I think this is a tricky one, because for me personally, health would always come before money. So if it's important for you to buy organic food, then absolutely go for it. I personally noticed that I'm not really consistent. So in some cases, it's important for me to buy organic, for example, with eggs. And also with meat. In other cases, sometimes I prefer to buy regional And then regional doesn't necessarily mean organic. And sometimes I also just go for the cheaper one with some vegetables or some fruit. So with these one ingredient foods, I don't have a pattern here. But also with more processed foods, at least in Germany, usually the grocery stores have like the premium brands, and they also have low budget brands, usually their own. And then if you notice that it's actually not that important for you to buy the premium brand and you want to give the low budget version a chance, then I think this would be a good opportunity to save some money. Especially when thinking about groceries, you have to be aware that it is something you buy over and over again, right? What I do in cases like this, I always check the ingredients list. So if I buy something like, for example, olives, I don't have some at home, otherwise I would show you now. But like I turn it and I look onto the ingredients list. And when I notice that there's more unnecessary stuff in either the cheaper version or the more expensive version, I have seen both, then I would go for the one that has the minimalist ingredients list. So ideally there's only like olives, water and salt. And in other cases they have like so many more ingredients, and then I don't buy it. You wouldn't believe, by the way, how difficult it is to find a ham that doesn't have any sugar in it. It's crazy. Alright, what also can make a difference is where we buy. Where we buy our groceries matters for how much we pay. Because you will know this, there are different types of grocery stores. So almost no matter where you live, there will be premium stores. In Germany, this would be Rewe and Edeka. In the US, this would be, for example, Whole Foods. And then there are also normal range to discounters. In Germany, this would be Aldi and Lidl. In the US, I don't even know, to be honest. Maybe Costco, Walmart, Target, stores like that. But depending on where you live, and not just that, also what you buy can make a difference. So what I suggest you could do is that, for example, for 1 month you only go to one specific store, and then in another month you go to another store, and then you compare how much you actually spent in those 2 months. Now, one note on that: watch out that in 1 month you're not accidentally like 2 weeks away on vacation, because this will be a bias in the outcome. Or another note, that not like a big holiday is in the other month, because things like this would bias the outcome. Or what you could do, you could hold on to the receipt and then compare prices of the items you bought. Because it may be that for the specific things that you buy, it's not even that big of a difference. And then you don't have to take the longer distance to go to another store, right? Now, I personally admit I do not like to go to discounters that much. I don't know why, I just don't feel comfortable. So I probably prefer the premium grocery store. And I mean, yeah, if you're already used to it, familiarity is a big factor in this. I recently talked to a friend where she also said, the grocery prices have gone up significantly. But she has a very hard time switching, because in the other store, she has to start from scratch. Like, she doesn't know where everything is. And maybe then they don't have the specific brand that she likes. So if it seems like a hurdle to switch, I totally get it. I guess ultimately you just have to check your financial priorities, right? And that's why I said it can really make sense to compare the prices to see if the sacrifice is actually worth it. Okay, and now another strategy to save money on food is how we buy. What do I mean by how we buy? Now, the very first tip is: do not go hungry into a grocery store. Eat something before. I have fallen for this so often. And it's really hard to not buy everything that jumps on you when you're hungry in the grocery store. Even though you know that that's not actually something that you would buy, if you were not hungry. Another tip is just make a plan. Because the better you plan for groceries, the less unnecessary stuff you buy. Now, if you're really ambitious, you can plan your meals for the whole week and then make a shopping list and buy the ingredients that you need. I personally do not do that because I have a very small fridge at the moment, which means I go about 2 to 3 times into the grocery shop at the moment. And then I buy fresh and I cook fresh. I don't like cooking, by the way, like at all. But I do like to eat healthy, homemade foods. I used to love frozen foods, and I still freeze things sometimes when I have something left over. But now, especially after I've done the course I talked about in the beginning, I genuinely believe that fresh food is the best, is the healthiest for our body. So I actually almost never buy frozen food anymore. And another part of making a plan is to check what you already have at home, and maybe even make a plan what you need to make it empty, and avoid buying things double. This happened to me with spices so often that I wanted to cook a certain recipe and I went into the grocery store and I bought a spice that I almost never use, and then I have 2 at home. So yeah, that's just kind of a waste. Okay, then besides planning, usually you will know this. When you go to the grocery store, the bigger the package, the less usually the price per unit is. For example, if I buy eggs, I usually go for a package of 10 because 1 egg in a package of 10 is usually cheaper than 1 egg in a package of just 4 or 6. Not always though, so you can just look at the price per unit. And the same goes for groceries that do not perish. For me, this would be nuts. For you, if you eat it, it could be, for example, pasta or rice or grains. And last tip, when you are flexible with what you buy, you can consider buying the stuff that is on sale. Now, obviously, when food is on sale, most of the time it's because it's, very short before the expiration date. So you have to consider that you have to eat it faster. And I noticed, maybe you noticed too, that there's usually special times for that. Like, for example, in the evenings when they're trying to get rid of stuff, or also on Saturdays and Saturday evenings, because at least here in Germany, on Sundays, everything is closed. Now, one more note on the how we buy. I know that there are also these delivery services that deliver groceries. Now, I get it. It's totally convenient. And I'm also not a big fan of going grocery shopping, to be honest, because it's time consuming and it's heavy. But these delivery services, they need to make money. They need to pay the people, who deliver the stuff. So this will be more expensive. And what you could do is to see this as a real luxury to order your groceries at home that you will start doing after you've reached a certain financial milestone. Because after, like $500,000 net worth, this will not matter anymore at all, or at least make it really an exception. So those were my thoughts on grocery shopping. I would love to hear your thoughts and your experiences on spending money, saving money, and so on groceries. Let me know in the comments. Now, when you really want to start saving money on groceries, it's very important that you actually put that money to work. And I will link a video that dives deeper into this topic right here. If you're still here, thank you for watching. I hope this helps, and I see you in the next video. Bye-bye.